Welcome to the Rotary Membership Action Plan Session 3. And without much further ado, let's welcome to the stage the chair of the Membership Action Plan Committee, your friend and mine, Patrick Eakes.
Thank you, Andy, and good evening, friends. Thank you for joining us for the third session of our Membership Action Plan series, Meaningful Onboarding. So let's start by recapping why we're here. The goal of the Membership Action Plan team is to give you the tools and resources, the map, if you like, to build consistent, moderate growth in your clubs. Membership growth is, of course, Rotary International's top internal priority, and we see MAP as an arm of Rotary's action plan to increase our impact, enhance participant engagement, and expand our reach, which in turn helps us fulfill Rotary International's vision, where together we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. Quite simply, if we grow more, we can do more. We can have more vibrant, more exciting meetings and do projects which deliver greater impact. In short, creating club environments where our members do not just survive, but thrive. However, data show that while many of our clubs are doing an amazing job in service, that our biggest challenge remains membership. And while some clubs are succeeding and growing, many clubs need a plan that they can easily follow, that is immediately actionable and is backed by real-time data. The Membership Action Plan, or MAP, offers a multi-year, data-driven, step-by-step guide to help our clubs achieve consistent, moderate membership growth. So, a quick review of Session 2, where we discussed the challenges of inviting prospects to a meeting and instead suggested inviting them to a membership event. We then walked through one example of a membership event called Discover Rotary. Many clubs have found that by hosting a Discover Rotary type event, that they get the greatest return on membership growth. After your Discover Rotary event, and you've got some new members, what happens next is key. Tonight's session will go through meaningful onboarding. Many businesses fall short in properly onboarding new employees. Sadly, many of our Rotary clubs also fall short at the beginning of the relationship with a new member. Organizations with a strong onboarding process improve new hire retention by 82% and productivity by over 70%. Companies with weak onboarding programs lose the confidence of their candidates and are more likely to lose those individuals in the first year. I believe these numbers correlate to Rotary new members. We want our clubs to grow and know that happens through attracting new members and retaining current members. What we often fail to realize is our retention plan begins before they become a member. Nailing the onboarding process puts you on a path to membership growth. Andy Van Hook will get us started with tonight's session.
Thanks, Patrick. Really appreciate the opportunity to be here. But as we get going, as the slide says, I really shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be in Rotary. And I want to tell you a little bit about how we got here, or I got here, and talk about how the onboarding process is an important piece to our Rotary pathway. So I attended a Rotary mixer hosted by local clubs in my community. They invited people to learn about Rotary and each of the individual clubs. I was invited and visited each of those clubs, and the club that was most attractive to me was the largest and oldest club. At the time, as the owner of a very young business, I saw this club as an opportunity to connect with more people in order to grow my business, along with serving my community. So I visited the club twice and submitted my application. And then I went for the third week and was nearly ushered out the door before a member I knew said that it was okay and I could be his guest. The reason that they were going to usher me out the door is because I already had my 2 visits and hadn't been approved for membership yet. And so I wasn't allowed to attend another meeting without being a member. So that's reason number one why I shouldn't be in Rotary. So I didn't go back the following week due to my experience the week prior. However, I did inquire about my application status. I was told my application had been received and it would be reviewed by the membership committee, which met quarterly. And they had met 3 weeks prior and would not meet again until the following quarter. And so that would have been about 10 weeks after submitting my application, which it was about 10 weeks after submitting my application. And that is reason number two why I shouldn't be in Rotary today. Once I was finally approved, I attended a few meetings and determined I was going to sit at every table in order to meet new people and to grow my network. It was going well until I got to one of those tables. I'm sure most of you know what I mean by quote unquote those tables. Many of you may have one or two of those tables. And so as I walked up to the one empty chair at that table, these gentlemen were having quite a lively conversation. However, when I sat down, the conversation came to almost a screeching halt. One of them was nice enough to ask me who I was and what I did, so I proceeded to give them each a business card. And the last guy I handed my card to took a glance and said, "We don't do that here," and literally flung my card back at me. I was quite stunned, and there wasn't much else said at the table the rest of the meeting. And that's reason number three that I shouldn't be in Rotary. So I'm not really sure if it's my stubbornness or ignorance that got me to stay, but it wasn't a great way to start the relationship. And I think there's a lot of things we need to consider on making sure people have this great initial experience. So are there rules in your club that are a barrier to membership? And consider how many members have our clubs lost due to outdated practices? And is your club really a friendly group? As we all like to say, are clubs friendly? Or is it truly a group of friends? Because there's an important difference there. So as we begin our session on meaningful onboarding, I want to start by talking about you need to start before a new member's first day. And you may not necessarily think about it in that way. However, this part of the process is really key. And so the first step I would ask you to do is review your application process. Maybe you've done this by now. I know my club did. Once I got on the board and I was like, hey, this time frame is a little off. You know, I look back at my experience and it took nearly 3 months to approve a member. I think your process needs an update. I know my clubs did. And so questions you ought to consider asking yourself and your board and leadership in your club are, how long does it typically take for an applicant to become a member? How can you improve your application process to close new members quickly? How can communication improve to let applicants know their status and when they can expect an answer? At a time when any of us can pretty much buy anything instantly from our phones, the longer people wait, the less interested they become. Second on this list is upon completion of your Discover Rotary Hour, which we talked about last month, you should have some solid membership prospects. Take them to a preliminary one-on-one coffee or lunch or breakfast or beverage. RI President Jennifer Jones has stated these preliminary interviews help club leaders understand the needs and the expectations of new members at the outset. Making sure that everybody is in alignment on what the new member needs and what the club expects on both ends, that's really going to help on retention as they get into their membership. So don't wait for members to leave to interview them. Start really early and then continue to do that throughout their relationship with your club. Start early and plug them in based on what you learned from that one-on-one coffee. Third, there is a welcome email. So we got a couple of emails here I really think that are important to send. And the first one is an instruction email to the new member and the club president and the president-elect. In this instruction email, it welcomes a new member along with outlining some key information about your club, where it meets, what day it meets, what time and how often it meets, dress code, parking, how to get to the meeting, is it on the third floor, etc. Sometimes it seems obvious to those of us who've been in our clubs for a while that, well, this information is apparent. Well, even if they visited your club prior to joining, this is a nice touch to go out there and just make them feel welcome, make them feel sure about the decision that they made. Because anytime any of us have been new to an organization, a job, we're unfamiliar. And so there's some nervousness there. And this kind of email can help ease some of that nervous tension that they may feel. And they don't know a lot of the things about our clubs that we know. So making sure that they understand where you're at and those types of details is really important. The next email is an introduction email, and this email goes out to the entire club, introducing the new member, and make sure that the club knows that there's this new member we're excited about. Pretty short email, gives a little background information on the person, who they are, maybe where they work, what their interests are, how they're looking to serve, a little background, and a photo. An email like this makes your new member feel special, and it also gives current members some talking points when introducing themselves. So it helps on both ends. It helps your new member feel special. It also helps your current members have an opportunity to talk. You know, maybe some of our members aren't necessarily comfortable, or they're not great making the first move, as it were. If they've got some background information, they may be more comfortable in starting a conversation with that new member. And so I know we talked about 2 email templates here, and don't worry, we've got templates for you as part of our meaningful onboarding toolkit, and we'll talk about that later and how you can access those. And fourth, before you get started on the first day, is to facilitate introductions. Don't leave new members wondering or wandering. Remind and encourage your club leaders, official leaders or otherwise, because we've all got those leaders of the club who may not necessarily have an official title, but they're a leader in your club. Make sure that they introduce themselves and welcome new members. It's really important that new members start to feel like they're part of the group, and they start to make those connections and build those relationships that makes Rotary great. And a club president should specifically connect with new members. It's a really simple gesture that goes a long way towards retention. Really, for new members to get the club president to come say hi, take 10 minutes or 5 minutes and chat with them, it really does go a long way in making them feel like, wow, this is a pretty special moment for me. And all this leads up to the art of the induction. And with more on that, our very own Art McQueen.
Good evening, everybody. So the art of the induction, get it? So now we've covered the membership pipeline, connecting with prospects, securing of leads, the inviting folks to a Rotary Discovery meeting. They visited our club, they like us and what we do and stand for. They want to get engaged. They want to be members of the greatest organization on the planet. Your board and your members have voted on the prospective member, and it's time to induct what will be our newest member. And you go, now what the heck do we do? Does your new member induction look like this? Sadly, been there, seen it. You know, it is one of those things. How long does it take? 30 seconds, you wave a wand, and then you have the courage to state, and welcome to the greatest Rotary Club in the world. Let me offer you a twist on a line from a song by the Gin Blossoms, and I've used variations of this line in the past. If you don't expect too much of us, you might not be let down. Well, guess what? Our members do expect a great deal. Why in the world would their first official action with your club be a total letdown? They're committing to giving your club their talent, their treasure, and their greatest asset of all, their time. They deserve better. Make it a big deal. Let's talk about some suggestions. And by the way, if you can get Larry David there to do your inductions, that's a pretty good idea too, right? But let's talk about some suggestions for making inductions a big deal. Before the new member induction meeting, make club members aware, have a full house, confirm attendance of the new member. You think might be a good idea, right? The sponsor, got to have the sponsor there. Need to recognize the sponsor. Family members, they're a great resource for telling you things you don't know, right? Tell me something I don't know about Jack or Jill, and you'll get the greatest stories you ever heard, especially if you get a bunch of goofs like me, maybe, to tell you those family stories. Coworkers. What a concept, right? Get their coworkers there. Maybe one of them will want to join your club when they see what's going on and how this individual is being received into your club. The local chamber of commerce. Yes, we are a networking organization. You just heard what Andy said about what happened when he handed a card. There's nothing wrong with exchanging cards. No, we don't sell our business when we're in a meeting, in the business portion of the meeting. But our organization was formed in large part of individuals from classifications in order to network. Get the local chamber in there. Get the assistant governor if they're available. The district governor, the DGE, the DGM, the DGND. But I'm going to give you a word of caution. Not all district leadership was created equal. Yep, I said it. But it doesn't mean they wouldn't do a good job, but it does mean they might not induct that member in a manner that suits the culture of your club. If you do a great job, you do the great job. Leave them up there, put them up there, let them be a part of that dais, if you will, so that they can see everything that's going on and shake hands and all of that. But unless you've seen that individual do an induction and you thought it was fabulous, you do that good job. The day of the event, just said it, induct it in the way it fits your club. Be fitting to the culture of your club. Leave ample time. God forbid you might have more than one member to induct on one day, right? And if you do, make it the meeting. There's nothing that says this has got to be boom, over with, onto our speaker that's probably from a nonprofit and going to try and get us to give them money anyway. This is a perfect opportunity to do more than one meeting. This is a huge deal, and momentum creates momentum. Introduce the new member to your club. Let that new member share. Give the new member some time to share their thoughts. Ask them why they chose Rotary. Ask them why they chose your club, specifically your club. Maybe they visited other clubs. Ask them why your club won out over those other clubs. Have a new member packet, a certificate, and a pin ready to go. Don't be scrambling on the day of the induction going, hey, have we got a packet? Can someone sign this thing? Is there a pin in it? Etc., etc. Be professional. We try and put together a professional webinar for you. We try and put together content, and it's critical that you do the same thing in your meetings, right? And I just saw a quote. I just saw something pop up in the chat box. Yeah, I got lots of screens going, and it's a perfect thing. It actually is a perfect statement. Gordon Owens says most new members don't know what the district or the role of the governor is, and he's absolutely right. You can ask any member in your club, and unless they're interestingly different, shall we say, who the district governor was the year they were inducted into Rotary, they're not going to remember. They're not going to know. I was standing in a club when I asked that question, and the person that said, I don't know, forgot it was me that was in there that day that actually participated in the induction. But they'll always remember their sponsor. They'll always remember the way you made them feel on that day. It is critical to let them be a part of this. Let everyone say hi. Lots of ways to do this. I've seen clubs put a square, all the members go around square in the room, and that new member gets to walk around the entire room shaking hands. You can also do a gauntlet. you know, and a gauntlet sounds terrible, right? But a gauntlet, let them do a tunnel like a sports team runs out and let them go through that tunnel and give high fives to everybody. Something that makes them keep that excitement, keep that momentum, get them engaged, make sure you know what they want to be engaged in. Don't put them on the membership committee when they said they were interested in community service. That's the fastest way to lose them. Put them where they want to be. You asked them what brought them to your club, why they joined your club. It's time for you now to deliver. And at this point in time, I'm happy that I get to turn this over to my true doppelganger in Rotary, Andy Van Hook. Andy, take it away.
Thanks, Art. Really appreciate all your insights, and I couldn't think of a better person that I have the honor of being a doppelganger of. That's for sure. And how could anybody forget you? I mean, I know I've tried, but I sure can't. So, no, thank you for all those great tips and how to make the art of the induction a really special time for those new members. It's also special for your current club members as well. Gives them opportunity to remember why they're in your club. So one other piece we want to talk about is engagement and celebration. And so for new members to be thriving members, we've got to get them engaged. And so we've got some downloadables for you on the RI Zone website. And that includes a couple of different options of new member checklist ideas. And you can take each of these guides and craft your own from them using some of the ideas there. One is a red badge program. Some of you may be very familiar with that. But also there's a STAR program in there, has some similarities, but there's also some nice differences there as well. And then there's a new member scavenger hunt. So we've got 3 different new member checklist options on the RI Zone site. And again, we'll show you where to get those here in just a couple of moments. It's a great opportunity to make sure the new member has some tangible things to do other than just come to a meeting, making sure that they're engaged, starting to learn more about your club, learn more about Rotary International, some different pieces along the way to help make sure that you're getting them to buy into this organization. This is much like new hire orientation. So the more we can get them to buy into the organization, the better off and the longer the relationship will be. And next up is making sure you recognize the accomplishment. So, you know, if you've got a new member who completes one of your new member checklists, great. Make sure that we recognize them in front of the club, not just as a one-off. Let's recognize them in front of the club. If you've got a red badge program that you're already doing, then make that transition to the blue badge a big deal. Make it part of a club announcement before your meeting starts. Consider doing a new pin. You know, there's plenty of pins out on Russell Hampton that are Rotary certified. You don't have to have a custom one. You could just find one that fits your club and your club's personality and get a little Rotary pin for them as a piece of recognition for completing their new member checklist. And also consider transferring club foundation points. It's an opportunity to help continue their education into the Rotary Foundation, why it's important to your club, and it helps to get them moved quicker to Paul Harris Fellowship and all that entails and means for us as Rotarians. And also make sure you recognize the sponsor. Art mentioned it earlier. A lot of times we get the new member, we do the thing, but make sure the sponsor is part of this celebration and recognition. You know, that sponsor thought enough of the new member to also think enough of your club to invite and bring them to participate and join that organization. So that's a pretty big thing for that member to do that. So make sure not to forget the sponsor as you're going through this recognition process. So the next thing up, I promised you, we talked a bunch about different pieces of information we have here for you guys. Go to the rizone3334.org website. And in the search box there at the top, you'll see it. It's going to replay here in just a moment. Search box there at the top, type in orientation. There you go, orientation. Then you'll hit search. And it will pop over right there at the top is a new member or onboarding and library. And right there's your library of about 10 different pieces of templated material or ideas that other people have used to success in onboarding your new members. So a lot of those pieces are in there. Again, all those pieces are in there for your use. Take them, you can use them as they are, or you can customize them as it seems fit to your club. So a quick recap on what we learned here today. One is that retention starts before day one. You know, a lot of times over the years, you know, we talked a lot about retention in terms of membership. How do we hold on to people? How do we hold on to people? Well, there's a lot of data out there on the business and employment side that says that your retention starts before their first day on the job. Patrick said it earlier, and I agree with him. That's a big win if you can orientate and get them onboarded early and well. They're going to likely stick around as a member for longer. Art gave us a great intro to making the induction magical. You know, Art's got a great way of doing that. He gave you a great checklist. And again, make it fit your club. If your club's a little more, you know, a little more formal, make it a little more formal. That's okay. If your club's a lot more, you know, open and a little less buttoned up, make it fit that organization as well. Because it's really important to make sure that our new members feel like it's a big deal to have them on board, because it is. And also, we're going to engage and celebrate. So make sure that they've got a list of things to do over the course of their first 3 or 6 months as members, so they can keep on task of some opportunities for them to grow within your club. And then also, as they've completed those tasks, make sure to celebrate, because we all like a good celebration in Rotary, and this should be no different. So now we've gone through our program today, and you've got this, right? We've given you some great tips, a lot of tips today. However, what we're going to also challenge you to do is pick one of these. Pick one of these things that we went over that makes sense for your club, that could be an easy win. Maybe it's more along the retention, the onboarding before day one. Maybe you think the art of the induction is the next easy step for your club, or maybe it's the engagement and recognition part. Pick one of those and start moving in that direction to help your club go forward. And next up is our next session is going to be creating clubs for today. So you're going to get tools to create flexible membership types, reach different prospects, reduce time and cost requirements, attracting young professionals. And it's another jam-packed session in this bite-sized webinar series, and it will be on November the 14th. That should be 2022, because I don't think any of us want to go back to 2020. So at 6 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Atlantic, and 5 p.m. Central. And with that, I'm going to mute and drink some water and toss it over to Mike Berg, who's going to handle Q&A.
There we are. Great presentation, Andy. Congratulations. It really worked well. Art, you did a pretty good job too. Andy, one of the first things that I saw in the chat box, and please folks, use chat box, use the Q&A, don't use the chat box. First thing I saw was that 2 clubs, Andy, wanted you to be in their Rotary Club. So while you had a tough time, they said, come on over. We'd be glad to have you.
Well, I appreciate that. I'll if something changes, I'll definitely look you up.
I think the first thing is, you mentioned how long it took you to go through the process. And one of the questions was, how long do you think an application process should be?
You know, it's a great question. I think that any club they need to do what feels right for their club. I would say that as a buyer, 10 weeks was too long. I would say if you can't get it done in about a month, or at least be communicating with that potential new member what your timeline looks like, that would be what my suggestion would be, is 30 days. If you can do that, that would be great. Quicker if you can. I know some, you know, need it to go from membership committee to board approval to that kind of thing, to the membership approving it overall. So there is some time built in there. I know our club moved moved it to an email approval process versus an in-person approval process. So I mean, something along those lines could tighten up that time frame. But even if it needs to drag out over, 6 weeks, communicate with that prospective member what the process is so they know what's going on. Don't just leave them in the dark and wondering, because then they're probably never going to show up.
Yeah. Thank you. Art, one question that came up was, when do you think new members should be given assignments?
So a lot of clubs will, if you do a good pre-induction and you learn why that individual wants to join that club, then it's pretty easy, right? I mean, you may have even said, your induction is such and such a day, and we're looking forward to putting you on the membership committee or the community service committee, and we'll make the announcement that day. If that isn't clear, then please don't do it, because it's like a hammer in the head. I'm already working, I want to get engaged, but I need to learn a little bit more. So it varies from club to club. No hard and fast rule. The sooner someone's engaged, the better. I mean, engagement is critical for all our members, not just our new ones, for our new ones, our old ones, all of us.
Yeah, you also mentioned the invitees to the membership pinning. And someone also mentioned the district membership committee chairs. Your opinion about how many folks should be at an induction ceremony?
From my perspective, the more the merrier, right? I mean, it's a big deal. Make it a big deal. Too often, we don't even get our club members there because we forgot to tell them. We send out one email a year that says the district governor's coming. Please show up and support the governor and hear the governor's message. We should do that a lot more often, but definitely for our new members as well.
Andy, you talked about the idea of telling folks, everybody who is joining, and the idea that those folks should tell their friends and neighbors. How do you advertise the fact that your club has got a new member?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of great opportunities there. I mean, internal is first, right? You want to make sure that your club knows who the new member is. Again, I go back to onboarding a new employee. You don't want to have new employee wandering around for 2 weeks with nobody has talked to them, right? And so making sure that internal is first, that's huge. The induction piece is part of that. All the tips that Art gave about inviting family or friends or coworkers, the Chamber of Commerce, that's an opportunity. All our opportunities to do kind of a word of mouth aspect to some degree, invite them via email. I've seen some clubs who will write a short little announcement that they send out to the newspaper, and they'll also post it on their social media feeds and tag that new member, so then they can reshare it and their friends see that they're part of the organization as well.
Right. Art, this question got thrown out. In the past, Rotary Clubs used to charge a $50 administration fee for new members. Is that still the case? Are clubs still doing that?
Some clubs do. Some clubs don't. There's no rule on that. My club is not a club that does do that. I suppose a small club with minimal resources may do that. I don't know. I can't give you a straight up answer on that one, Mike. Mike, I need to make one other comment too, because it was something that Andy said. I don't know that everyone's aware of it, but please encourage your governors to set up an automatic notification to a new member. I know you can do it in DACDB, you can probably do it in Club Runner, whatever CRM, customer resource management system you're using, so that as soon as that new member posts in that CRM package, they are notified, and there's an email in there, and it generates an auto-generated email to that new member, welcoming them to Rotary, to the district, to the greatest organization on the planet. I will tell you that they all think it came to them, and I apologize for those I'm bursting the bubble on right now. They'll think it was personally written, but think about it. You know, I mean, a district with 3,000 members that loses 10% of their members and yet has a plus 2%. I mean, that's, you know, 300 and some emails that will go out to new members. And so it's a nice touch to get an email from the governor of the organization you just joined that says, welcome to our organization.
Sure.
I'll piggyback even on that one.
Go ahead.
Take the opportunity to have that governor record a video that they can post in that email, so they know who that person is. It's a face rather than just text. It gives them an opportunity to engage with another human being in Rotary, and it's a lot warmer than just reading a text email.
Yeah. To everybody out there, Andy, in his listing of different items that you could find at RI, talked about the induction ceremony. But there was a question asked if there's a different induction ceremony for Rotarians that are going from one club to another, as opposed to brand new members.
That to me, Mike?
Yeah, sorry.
So most often you will see it different. In my opinion, it shouldn't be different. You know, they're probably going to a club where it's all new people. It should still be fun. And especially when people relocate. And, you know, I happen to be in a club in Florida. Yes, we do get some folks that move down from the north, from the cold. We don't know. And it really doesn't matter if they're jumping 2 counties. We don't know. Unless you got a governor that's moving. But then you're still going to want to ask, why is that governor moving? So, I mean, there's still opportunity here to get to know that person and to do it the same way and give them a feel for the culture of your club. So in my opinion, no, some of the words might be a little different because you're not really inducting them into Rotary, but you're inducting them into your Rotary club.
Andy, you mentioned at your club that it took a long time and that some of the senior members were not as interested as some of the junior members. How do you get the senior members re-engaged with new membership? How do you get them to see the benefit of that and to interact with those folks?
Oh, that's a great question, Mike. You know, I think the opportunity is, I mean, even as I was coming up in the leadership in my club, I was talking to that table that kind of rejected me that meeting. And, you know, their answer was, well, we just want to be here and have lunch with our friends because we've kind of done it and been there and blah, 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 blah. And so, and when I became president, one of the first things that they asked me was, don't make us change tables. And I said, okay. I said, wow, well, we like to have lunch with our friends. Okay, cool. That's fine. So we did a meeting where we changed tables, but it was not during lunch. It was the program where they changed tables. So they got to eat their lunch with their friends, but we did a service project. But we made them go around to different tables and introduce themselves to not just new members, but people who may have been in there a while and who hadn't necessarily talked to those folks. I think some intentionality is there, has to be there. And also being able to encourage them of saying, hey, you were in this spot once too. You know, these new members coming in might need some a little bit of mentorship or leadership, and you'd be a good fit for that.
I'll add to that myself. When I was in one of the Gwinnett clubs way back when, that club used to get folks to announce their birthday, and then they would make a swap to each table for those birth dates that were that month. And they got folks involved in talking to other people. It wasn't just the woman's table or the men's table. It became kind of a mixed bag.
That's a great idea.
Art, we had a couple of questions about new members and what committees would be best for them to start out with. We already talked about getting them engaged, but from your view, what committees would new members be applicable to?
So again, that's a conversation with the member. I mean, everybody joins for a reason. You know, it could be that they want to do community service. It could be they want to do international service. They may be wanting to involved with youth service. I mean, it runs the gamut, and you've got to discover what they want to do. my opinion, membership committee, unless they're a mover and shaker in the chamber or something, and they think they can bring you a lot of people, I don't see the benefit to that right out of the gate because they don't know your club. They don't know Rotary. It's a little bit of a tougher sell for them. But to do community service, they know what they want to do, and they want to join an organization that has the opportunity to move that forward in a bigger scale than what they can do on their own. And so I think I'm just a believer that the member drives that, not the Rotary Club. Let the member drive that.
Sure. And Andy, talking about the different committees that are out there and what folks want to do as opposed to what somebody assigns them to. One of the things that we hear quite often is discussions at the membership between the membership committee and the prospective member is what the costs are, what the responsibilities are. I'm sure out there are different views on that. Whether you start with a reduced fee for the first 2 years or whether you go full time. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think, you know, I tend to be one that struggles with the reduction of fees for new members. Unless you're really, really clear on that communication. And then you also have to provide that value along the way. And even then it's tough. Just being in business, and my experience is the price is the price. Whatever that first price is that you give somebody is what they're going to expect, at least for unless you communicate really well. And that you know 50% discount or whatever, I think that's a bit of a tough sell. I don't remember the rest of the question, Mike. So
that was it. That was it. How about sponsors? We recognize sponsors when we have an induction. What's the sponsor's responsibility for the new member after the induction is over?
So somebody mentioned mentors, and you know, it's possible that some clubs do use the sponsor as a mentor. They have a relationship already, so that's possible. I personally put that mentor piece into the next round. Andy mentioned a red badge when he was talking. Some clubs do red badge where you have a checklist of things to accomplish before you go to a blue badge or a square badge or whatever kind of badge you're using these days, right? But it is that ability to have a relationship. The mentor is a possibility to have a different person and get to know them well. But you know, your mentors are not everybody in your club is ready to be a mentor yet. So give them somebody that knows what they're doing in the club, been there, is active, and is actively engaged. I would say one thing that it's kind of amazing, and it's awesome sitting here and having multiple screens like I do and looking at the chat box, the Q&A, all these things going by, all the people that I know, a lot of good friends out there. It's great to see, but someone threw in there, make them a greeter. Great idea. Some clubs do that. Put them at that greeter table for a couple, 3 weeks. It's oftentimes part of that red badge program if you do one. If you don't do one, you can still make them a greeter. They get an opportunity to shake everybody's hand as they come through that day. Lots of good suggestions. I'm not seeing them all. That chat box is busy, so that's awesome. But a great suggestion.
Art, I'm seeing just as many screens as you are. They're all flying in. Last question, and I'll throw this out to either one of you. The restrictions for new members, is that still a practice where we keep them apart from other things, or should we again engage them in everything that we do?
what do you mean by restrictions?
Classification restrictions, I'm sorry. Is that still a practice?
Not in my club experience, but you all may feel differently or have different experience.
You're talking about the rule of duplicate classifications, Mike?
Yes.
I don't know that anybody is following that strictly anymore. The COL expanded the percentage that we were capable of putting in there, but the COL on a lot of this stuff is a guideline. There are no Rotary police. You've heard it said before. if having 50% of your membership is real estate licenses, which in Florida would be easy to do, and everybody's happy, if they're happy, we're happy, right? You know, and you get into slicing and dicing these things. You can have 20 doctors and they all practice a different form of medicine, and 20 lawyers and they all practice a different law. So the classification is what works for you and how you are set up in terms of declining a membership. If you have somebody in the club that wants to, you know, say, I don't think they should be inducted because it's going to cost me a lot of money or something, you've got to listen to that existing member as well.
Sure. Thank you, Andy and Art, both for your expertise in this area. That's the last question that I have. I'm going to turn it back over to Patrick. Patrick?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for moderating that discussion. Thank you to Art and Andy for being our panelists and our presenters. I know I can hear all of you out there virtually clapping for them, and they deserve that. So thank you for that. Also want to give big thanks to the tech team. There are a number of people who are working behind the scenes to make this work. And you may have noticed that we lost our slide deck there for just a little bit, but we had a backup person who came right in with the slide deck. So there are lots of people working to make this happen, and I see all the applause happening now. So thank you so much for recognizing those folks. We hope that you recognize the critical importance of meaningful onboarding for our new members. If we are intentional in the way we welcome prospective members, establish clear expectations for the Rotary experience, conduct a new member induction that signals how important these new members are to us, and create a system of engaging new members, we're going to attract new members and we're going to retain them. Now, we're going to send you a link to the recording of this webinar, as well as link to a good bit of collateral material that supports the topics that have been discussed this evening. So as attendees, you're going to receive all of that. Looking ahead, I hope that you are aware that World Polio Day is in just 2 weeks on October 24th. World Polio Day celebrates our commitment to rid the planet, of this awful virus. It's not too late for your club to create an event to celebrate our progress in eradicating polio and to promote Rotary's leadership in this effort. And this is a wonderful opportunity to unite our efforts in Rotary Foundation, public image, and membership. Also, speaking of public image, the next Zone 34 public image webinar, how the heck do you do that, will be held October 24th at 6 p.m. That's 2 weeks from right now. As you see on the slide, you can register for this webinar at www.elevaterotary.org. Finally, please take a moment right now and mark your calendar for November 14th of 2022 at 6 p.m. That's the date and time for our next Membership Action Plan webinar. And just to tease you a little bit, you see the slide. We're going to be focusing on creating clubs for today. Now, we all know what a traditional club model looks like, and it works fine for many of us on the call, including me. However, our two zones have had great success attracting Rotarians by creating new pathways into our great organization. So join us on November 14th, and you can learn more about how to make Rotary attractive to a wider portion of your community. That will allow you to expand your reach and increase your impact. Thanks for being with us this evening. We've got you wrapped up in under an hour, which is always our goal. And we look forward to doing the same and seeing you on November 14th when we talk about creating clubs for today. Good night, everybody.